Hey guys, Trent here with Sonar Pros. Got a boat, we are finishing rigging it up, and I'm going to go over setting up a SOLIX unit. This should be pretty similar for the APEX unit because the back-end OS is pretty much the same. So anytime I get a brand new SOLIX right out of the box, I'm going to make sure when I'm going through the general setup at the start that I make sure it's in custom mode. From there, once you go through a couple of the setup prompts, the important thing is to go in and turn on these key features and also network items. The first thing I like to do is go ahead and turn on our side imaging range, which can be done under chart options. So simply hit our menu button, we're going to go to chart options, we're going to go to general, and we're going to turn on our side imaging range. As you can see in the display, that's going to give you the sidebars to let you know how far you are side scanning, whether you're shooting 50 feet, 100 feet, 120 feet, whatever it be. It'll physically show you on the mapping representation of how far you're side scanning. The next thing I like to make sure everything is good to go when it comes to a SOLIX unit for setup is we're going to go in to our settings and specifically into our network settings. So the first thing I'd like to set up for network is I want to make sure our sonar source is set up to this head unit. A quick feature anytime you're in the SOLIX or APEXs, if it has a single unit icon like this, that means it is that local data. So we're going to make sure for 2D, down imaging, and side scan, they're all set to local. If these were unchecked, for example, we would make sure they are all selected to this unit. And that's specifically if this unit is running the transducer. From there, ideally, you're going to be running an external HSPS precision antenna. So we want to make sure we go in and we set up that our network is external. So I like to go network tab, data sources, and then I'm going to go down to heading. I'm going to turn off auto configure, and I'm going to make sure it's on NEMA device. I'm going to go back one page, and I'm going to do the same thing for GPS 1 and 2. So you can see right here, we're going to go to external GPS HS heading sensor. If you're inside a building like we are with metal roof, you're probably going to have no GPS fix. So if you see that, that's not the end of the world. We're going to go into GPS 1, turn off auto configure, and do the exact same thing. Now, from there, what I do like to go into next is going to be our temp sensor. Same thing. I want to turn auto select off, make sure it's set on temperature, and calibration leave in the middle. And then from there, the last thing I like to do as far as general setup is I am going to go into our side scan. I generally, when it comes to initial setup on a boat, I like to run our sensitivity on 9, contrast on 11, chart speed on 4 or 5, depending on your boat's idle speed. You want to match your chart speed to your idle speed of your boat. And then range for side imaging in mega frequency, I like to typically run right around 85 feet. That's what I feel like is a good range to run it at. Anything further than 120 feet, I'm probably going to flip it over to 455 kilohertz. As far as color palettes, it's totally up to what looks good to you for the eyesight. Generally 2 or 3 is what we like to run for birds, and that's the same for down imaging as well. So we're going to go to down imaging. Sensitivity, same thing. I'm going to go 9, contrast 11, chart speed, again, match it to your idle. Range, I like to leave this pretty much in factory settings. I'm not going to change anything from there. And then sonar color, we are going to go to sonar options. We got our sonar colors. Same thing, 2 or 3 is what I like to run. And then the last thing, as far as initial setup, our 2D sonar. Now, what I like to do here is, when it comes to 2D, leave your contrast on 10 and your contrast on 20, sensitivity on 10. Out-of-box settings with a traditional 2D sonar puck like we have here with a Y cable works just fine. What I do like to change out of the box is I personally like color palette number 1 when it comes to 2D sonar for Humminbird setups. So that's just my personal preference. So when we do a customer setup like this, that's what we're going to change. Other than that, those are kind of some general setups. The other thing I would say is if you had Lake Master mapping, if you had a Lake Master mapping chip, this is a good opportunity to go in and kind of set your color ranges, especially if you run the new VX card. You can select one of the preset color ranges. That's probably the next thing I would recommend doing. Other than that, those are kind of my general setups when it comes to SOLIXs and APEXs. Now, the contrast and the sensitivity and range and all that is very dictated on where you're fishing, how you're fishing, where you're graphing, all that good stuff. These are just kind of general baseline setup tips that I like to do for getting a new unit out of the box. Obviously, it's going to change based on where you're at and how you're using these units. So if you guys have any questions, you can reach out to us at SonarProsElectronics.com.